Welcome back to Scrap Cooking, the show where we're going to show you how to reduce your waste, save a bit of money, and use all your trim that you didn't think you could use. So today we're going to be making some little instant oatmeal packages, and we are going to be doing them apple cinnamon flavors. So we're going to be cutting up the apple peels and dehydrating them, and then building little baggies of instant oats with cinnamon and brown sugar. So let's get started. All right, so before we start cutting up these apple peels, don't forget to hit that subscribe button or hit that like button, and don't forget to send us your suggestions. So now we're just gonna cut up these apple peels. So let's get started. So let's get these apple peels cut. So we're just gonna cut them in like small pieces. When they dehydrate, they're gonna shrink and roll up. So we don't want them to be too tiny, but we don't want them to be too big either. Oh, sounds like my oven is ready. So we're just gonna cut them up. In order to go a bit faster, what we could do is sort of make a couple little lines of peel. So we can do more than one at one time. So there we go. So the only other thing you want to be careful of is apple peels. They can kind of get stuck in your knife if it's not like crazy sharp. So you just want to keep the tip of your knife on the board and sort of move the knife through. And that way, if you just kind of go up and down, they might not go all the way through, and you might get sort of like accordion peels, or your knife might slip. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to, they are gonna be dehydrated, and they'll roll themselves up into little tiny pieces. We're gonna put them on this sheet pan. And we just wanna, they need a bit of space. So we might need to do several pans, but we kinda wanna space them out so that they dry evenly. Because if they're sort of sitting on top of one another in a pile, like the single ones will dry, but the ones in the pile will be like partially dry. And then if you add it to the oatmeal, then they might rot, and you don't want that. All right, so I have painstakingly separated all of my pieces of peel, and I have put my oven to the lowest setting that it can. And this one is 170 degrees, which is too hot. But I have a workaround. So what we're gonna do, and if you have a food dehydrator at home, just use that, that's great, but not everybody does. So if you don't, like me, we're gonna put these in the oven on the lowest setting overnight, but we're gonna take a couple tea towels and we're gonna wedge them in the door so that the door's open, so that it's not too hot in there. Because really what we're doing, we just want them to dry. We don't really want them to cook. We don't want the sugars to caramelize and cook it. We just want it to be dried. So we're gonna head over to the oven in the lowest setting. So now I'm going to put this tea towel in the door, and I'm gonna do the same on the other side. There, so that's just gonna keep it propped open. And if you have a gas oven, lucky you, you can just leave it on the pilot overnight, because that's just warm enough to let it dry. It's what I usually do in the restaurant. It's just put it in the oven overnight with the pilot on. But yeah, this works too. So we're gonna leave that overnight, and we'll get back to making the oatmeal tomorrow. All right, one last tip for if you're putting stuff in your oven overnight and it's either low enough that it's fine to not put a tea towel in it, or if you're in a gas oven, it's something I've done several times, is forget that you have something in the oven and then turn it on and burn everything that you were dehydrating. So at the restaurant, what we do is we'll take a tea towel or a rag or something and we'll tie it around the oven handle, just so that you remember that there's something in there. Happened several times. So for our oatmeal, we're gonna toast some pecans, but you can use any nut or no nut or seed or whatever. So I'm just over a cup. And I've got an oven that's preheated to 325. And we're just gonna put it in for 10 minutes and then check it, because anytime after that, it's pretty dicey as to how fast they turn. So, and almost every single cook who's ever worked in a kitchen has burned nuts. So timers are your friend. And so we'll start with 10 minutes and then we go 2 minutes, 1 minute after that. All right, so get this in here. All right, so now we're gonna build our oatmeal. So I've got 4 cups of rolled oats, quick oats actually. So rolled oats are just, and you can use either quick oats or rolled oats. It's up to you and how much time you have in the morning. So the quick oats have been rolled and then cut up further so they don't take as long to cook. So those are nice for the morning because we always run out of time, especially if you're me. So I've got a cup of brown sugar and I've got about a tablespoon of cinnamon. And you don't have to only use cinnamon. You can use any sweet spice that you want. Cloves are nice, but they're quite strong, so you only need a little bit. Allspice, nutmeg, all sorts of stuff. So we're gonna do cinnamon, and we're gonna mix it in to our sugar. All right, so I'm gonna add this 1 cup of sugar to my 4 cups of oats. And I've got half a cup of hemp hearts. And I like adding stuff like that in, or flax seeds or chia seeds, just to add a little bit of protein. And they're real good for you. So we're gonna give that a good mix. So we are clump-free, or mostly clump-free. And I'm also gonna add, this is optional, but it's common to add a bit of salt. So it's just gonna bring out our other flavors. So I'm just gonna add like a chef pinch of salt in there. I'm gonna put that aside. And you can, as we're putting it into containers, it can either be a Ziploc bag or a reusable Ziploc bag or a little deli container like this. So this is what I'm gonna use. And I'm going to add half a cup to each one. All right, so that made 10. So we've got our apple peels that are in the oven. So we've got our nice apple peels, which are pretty cool. So they're a little bit warm and some of them are a bit stuck. So we might get a little spatula or some kind of scraping device. See if we can get them off. So we've got just a couple that got stuck there, but not too many. Now we're gonna put them in a little bowl. So this is the peelings of 6 apples. But if you only have a couple, that works too. And it's a pretty easy recipe to scale up or down, so you don't have to make 10. You could make 1 or 2. And now we're gonna evenly distribute them between all of our oatmeal packs. And you know that it's you know that they're ready because they'll just break. And if they're not cooked, if they're not dried out all the way, you can't really break them. They'll kind of bend. So these guys are all good to go. All right, so now we're just gonna wait until our pecans are done, and then we'll make a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast. All right, my timer's gone off, and I'm gonna get my hot nuts. Oh, I love that smell. Yes, they are good. So we need them to cool down completely before we add them to our oatmeal. So I'm gonna put them on this other tray because it's already cooled down, and that will help that cool down faster if you transfer from the heat. Okay, so my nuts are now cooled down, and I am going to crush them up. So you could put them on your cutting board and use a knife, but I actually like to use a bowl, small bowl, and then just crush them with using the weight of my own body. I'm gonna put them in this bowl. I'm gonna take my nuts, about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons per. And then these ones I will keep in a container for topping my other oatmeals. Now I've got some, this is a non-dairy milk. It's twice the amount of oatmeal that you need in liquid. So we're gonna put that in my little pot. You can use milk, you can use water, really, it's up to you. That's one of the nice things about oatmeal. So it's pretty subjective to who's making it and what they want in it. Woo! So I'm gonna turn it down to sort of just past medium. Yeah, I'm a liar. I'm gonna make it medium high. And we're just gonna wait for that to come up to a boil. And then we're gonna add one of these. And in the meantime, we're gonna put these guys away. Okay, we have achieved boilage. Now we're gonna add in our oatmeal. We're gonna turn it down. Gonna turn it down. That one's on simmer. Really, we're just gonna kind of leave it on simmer or very, very low. It's gonna absorb the liquid and thicken right up, but it smells really good. It's only gonna take a couple minutes to really get there, but it also depends on your taste. If you want it a bit more soupy, if you like it a bit thicker, so it's really up to you. I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. And I like mine on the thicker side, so I'm gonna try to evaporate some of that liquid out a bit. You want to keep stirring it as you go because you don't want it to get stuck to the bottom and burn. It will get stuck to the sides. There is sugar in it, so it will caramelize, especially if you're on a gas burner, you're more at risk of doing it from the sides as opposed to the bottom. Now again, I have a lamentful apple allergy, so I won't be able to eat it. But my lovely crew is gonna try it for me. All right, so we've got, can kind of see, if I move my spatula, you can see the bottom for a second. That's sort of where I want it to be. And then I got this bowl. Now it's gonna, it's like molten hot. So it definitely needs to cool down. Oh yeah, but you can really smell the cinnamon, you can smell the apple, the nuts. It's good. All right, we're gonna put a little bit pecans on top. It's for an additional crunch, and depending on how much sugar you put in it to begin with, or any at all, if you chose not to, put a little bit of maple syrup on top. I'm just gonna put a tiny bit since I put a decent amount of sugar in that. All right, so we have a beautiful, delicious, hot, stick to your ribs breakfast using our apple peels that we put dehydrated overnight to make little pieces to make our apple cinnamon and pecan oatmeal for breakfast. So I'm gonna pass this over to my colleague. Okay, and awesome. I really wish I could be eating it, but I hope you are eating it and having a delicious, pre-made, easy to get done breakfast. So that's our apple oatmeal, and thanks so much for watching, and we're gonna check you out next time for another episode of Scrap Cooking where we don't throw out flavor.